All right, so we're going to get started on section 3.4, last section in this chapter. This is over systems with word problems. So it's the same thing. This whole chapter has been over systems. Now we're just doing with word problems. Don't be intimidated by this. I think this is, I wouldn't say easier than other word problems, but at least this one, I'm breaking it down into 4 different types. And everything that I give you on the test will be one of these types. If you look through your notes, I did a part A and a part B for all these, so 1A and 1B. The way I'm going to set this up to save a little bit of time, the real big thing you're going to learn today is how to set up the problem. We're going to solve these just to get a little bit of a review, just so you kind of, again, have that refresher before we get into your practice tests and your tests this week. But really, the big thing is we solve it just like any other normal solving problem we do. But today we're learning how to set them up. So we will solve a couple, but so the punchline. The first one we're going to set up and solve together. Part B you guys are going to do on your own, but all you have to do is set it up. I figured this way it'll save a little bit of time. That way you have a little bit of time to do your worksheet, your exit ticket, and get all that stuff done. So per usual, I try to do this as much as I can. These are the steps to solving these. Now this is more like I wanted to give you guys a little bit of guidance. So if you don't follow these 5 steps, that's fine. But the first one, read the problem and underline anything that might be useful, especially what you're answering. So they always tell you what question it is, or it asks you a question, so you know what you're actually solving for, what you're finding. I put a step 1.5. It's one of those things that I would like you to do, but once you guys get going with this, you might not have to. But read it again just to make sure you didn't miss anything. Step 2, define your variables. Not a hard step. Just have to say like H is equal to, I can't think of where it starts with A. P is equal to pancakes and S is equal to sausage. Something like that, where you're just defining what variables you're using. Step 2 is set up your equations. Again, that's really the new part. And then after that, solving it. This is the same thing we've done for a little while. And then step 5, write your answer in a sentence or brief description. I'm decided if I'm going to have you guys do that on the test or not, but a lot of times I like students to do that so they actually know what they're finding. Without fail, there'll be ones that say, so how many children went to the circus? And somebody's answer is $10. So again, it helps if you kind of know what you're solving, and so we'll go over that a little bit. So I know it seems like it's 5 steps is a lot, but a lot of these go fairly quick. Okay. So number 1, the first one is when you're buying, you're selling, or you're filling items. And you'll see some of these. You'll see these examples here in a second. So number 1A, Yasani and Becca are selling pies for a school fundraiser. Customers can buy apple pies and pumpkin pies. So there's only 2 types of pies they can buy. Yasani sold 3 apple pies and 2 pumpkin pies. Made a total of $52. Becca sold 6 apple pies and 3 pumpkin pies for a total of $87. What is the cost of each type of pie? Now that is probably the most important part that a lot of people skip over. What are we actually trying to find? I thought about doing this, and don't get scared, I didn't actually do this, but I thought about on a test, putting this big long story problem like this, and then at the very end say, so what day is it today? So if you actually read it carefully, you don't need any of that information. You just need to put that it's Monday. Now again, I didn't do that. I don't want to trick you guys. But again, a lot of people miss this because they don't actually know what they're asking. So this is, what's the cost of each type of pie? So that's step 1. Again, reread that. Just make sure there's nothing in there that you missed. Step 2, define your variables. So my variables, again, these are pretty obvious. Now I will say, be specific when you define your variables. Like a lot of you guys will do A is apple pie, spelled wrong. A is apple pie, P is pumpkin pie. Now, again, that's not bad. That's not terrible. Honestly, I probably won't count you off for that. But to help you, what do you mean apple pie? Do you mean the cost of an apple pie? Do you mean how many apple pies they sold? Do you mean how much an apple pie weighs? Do you mean the circumference of an apple pie? I like you to be a little bit, and I'm not saying write a sentence, or definitely not a paragraph, but all I would add to this is we're asking for the cost, and so that's what I would add. Now, you don't have to erase yours if you didn't put that. That's fine. cost of apple pie. Now again, a lot of Algebra 2 teachers or a lot of teachers don't make you do that. If you just put apple pie, that's fine. And again, on a test or a quiz, if you just put apple pie, that's perfect. I can live with that. But when I do my notes, I'm going to be a little bit more specific so you know, that tells you, helps you a little bit know what you're finding. And then P is pumpkin pie. Sorry, cost of pumpkin pie. See, already almost messed that up. And again, this is an example. I've seen a lot of people that would solve this on a test, and at the end of their description, they'll say 7 apple pies. Well, no, we're not asking how many. They told you how many apple pies. We're asking what the cost is. So that was step 2. Step 3 is set up your equation. Now, again, this is one of those that I know story problems are intimidating, so I'm not going to say that it's easy and not say that you guys should totally all get this. I mean, you're all fully capable of it, but I get story problems are hard. But this one isn't too bad because they kind of give you the equations right here. We have 3 apple pies, 2 pumpkin pies, $52. 6 apple pies, 3 pumpkin pies, $87. So my equations, because you need 2 variables, 3 apple pies plus 2 pumpkin pies is equal to 52. 6 apple pies plus 3 pumpkin pies is equal to a total of $87. That's the new part for today. There will probably be some of them on your test. That's all you'll have to do. Or I guess I should say the next one we do, part B, that you guys do on your own, you can stop there. Because again, it's one of those things that when I give a test, I like to know with this question, what am I trying to find out? What am I trying to see what you know with this question? Well, a lot of times if you stop here, the reason is because I need to know that you can set up the equation. Later in the test, if you can show me that you know how to solve these equations, this one is more specifically if you know how to set up the equations. So that's step 3. Step 4 is solving that. This one's set up really nicely for elimination. It doesn't really matter how you want to do that. Actually, it doesn't matter how, but I think it's going to be easiest to multiply this equation by -2. So that is -6a minus 4p is equal to -104. Now, I know some of you guys from here, then you just cancel these like this, because you wrote it down here. If you want to do that, that's fine. I like to stick with the theme of my 3x3 problems we did last week. I'm going to rewrite everything just to make it nice and clean. You don't have to. Whatever you want to do is fine. So from here, combine your variables. Your a's cancel. I have -4 plus 3 is -1p. -104 plus 87 is -17. So my p is 17. Now again, what that means is pumpkin pies cost $17. But we want to know what each type of pie costs. So if we know that that pie is $17, what's the apple pie? Again, just like before, go in and sub it into one of your equations. It doesn't matter which one. They're both probably the same difficulty level. So I'm going to plug it into my first one. So I have 3a plus 2 times my pumpkin pie was 17 is equal to 52. Seventeen times 2 is 34. So you subtract 34. Again, this part is not any different than what we did before. Honestly, the only reason I'm doing this with you today is so you get that review. It's been a while since we've done problems like this, so we're going to get a little review, a little reminder, a little refresher. Divide both sides by 3. Your apple pie ends up being 6. Now, Not quite done yet. I will tell you that just to make sure we're clear on the test, on the ones I want you to solve like this, I'll probably put in the instructions, make sure you write your answers as a sentence or a brief description. Because I don't even care. If you don't put a full sentence, honestly, I'm not super upset about that. Again, I just want to make sure you know with A is equal to 6 what that means. Does that mean there's 6 apple pies? Does that mean the cost of apple pie? So if you're not sure, always go back to see what your question asks or look at your variable. That's why I was specific. Since I said it was the cost of an apple pie, I know that's $6. So when I say your description, literally, if I just said, so what is that? What's $6? Or what's that 6 mean? You would say that's how much an apple pie cost. So that's all you need to write out. If I want you to write it as a description or as a sentence, even if you did this, $6 for apple pie, $17 for pumpkin pie. Again, I know some teachers are a little bit more strict on writing a full sentence. Again, I can maybe cross that bridge a little bit later, but for me, I just want to make sure you know what those numbers mean. And again, this is the first style. I guess we have actually have 5 styles, but the 5th one is when there's 3 equations and 3 variables. So that's not going to be, that's a pretty obvious one. Any questions on that before we move on? All right, go ahead and read number 1B. Again, just like I said, you do not have to solve this one. All you need to do is set it up. So once you get to this step that we did in the last one, you can stop. My main thing is making sure you guys know how to get that. If you want to solve it, you're more than welcome to. So I defined my 2 variables, v and b. If you did it differently, you do not have to erase it. That's fine. But if you forgot to do that, I would still like you guys to do that just to make sure. And also, I didn't mention this earlier, but I always make my variables reflect what they actually stand for. So V is the number of students per van. You can make whatever you want. I've seen students that literally they use X and Y every single time. X, number of kids per van. Y, number of kids per bus. Now, I will tell you, if you're going to use X and Y, that's fine, but then you definitely need to make sure you label your variables. Because if you use V and B, if you don't label them, I'll probably count half the point off, but it's a lot easier to see, like I know what you're talking about. If you just use X and Y, it's a little bit more of a struggle. Then once you have that, again, they kind of give you the equations. 10V plus 3B is equal to 208. 5V plus 12B is equal to 587. Now again, if you want to solve that, you can, but for our purposes, we're just going to set that up. I will say the other thing, about defining variables, and I'm putting kind of too much stress on this, but just in case it helps, like I said, I use letters that reflect what they actually stand for. But honestly, for me, and you'll see this later today, if it's an S, I will use an S just because it's good to show you guys that. But I never used S's because my S's look like 5s. Same thing with Z. There's a lot of times I wouldn't use a Z because my Z looks a lot like a 2, or a T. A T looks like a plus sign. So if there's anything that you know like that, you don't want to mess up, obviously you can change whatever you need to. Any questions on that one? Hopefully not too bad. So let's move on to the next style. The next style is comparison. This one, in my opinion, is one of the hardest ones because there's one of them that you kind of have to think about and you have to really make sure you kind of squint your eyes out a little bit. So there's two friends that were discussing their life and how old they were. Combined, their ages total 99 years. So that's the first big thing to realize. Combined, their ages are 99 years. A lot of people don't think that's that important, but it definitely is. Then it says, the older of the two commented, I may be 7 years older than you, but I'm young at heart. Well, the thing we need to know is, I may be 7 years older than you. Then what they're asking, how old was the older person? I should have put is. How old is the older person? But apparently the older person is passed away. Not 7 years old anymore, huh? Again, if you want to use for your variables, O is the age of older person. You can, and that's what I'm going to do. That looks a lot like a 0. So if you're going to use that, make sure you're aware that that is not a 0. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Also, sorry, my handwriting's terrible. And Y is the age of younger person. So this one shows up a lot that a lot of people miss. The first equation. Combine their ages total 99 years. A lot of people don't know what to do with that. Well, if you combine their ages, don't you just take the age of the older person, the age of the younger person, you add those together, and they're telling you if you add those together, it's 99 years. That's what they mean by that. You're going to have a lot of those in the next couple ones. Then the older one says, I may be 7 years older than you, but I'm young at heart. So the hard thing with this one, and don't write this down because I'm going to erase this, but is my equation y is equal to o plus 7, or is o equal to y plus 7? And that's one of the harder parts about this. That's why I think this is the hardest one. Which one is which? Well, one way you can always tell is o is the older person. So if you look at this, if y is equal to older person plus 7, doesn't that mean that y is going to be bigger than o? Because you're taking o and adding 7 to it, so it's going to be bigger. Well, y can't be bigger because it's the older person, so you know it's not going to be that. The other way you can think of it is, if it says, I may be 7 years older than you, you can say that the older person is 7 years older than the younger person. The word is in math a lot of times is an equal sign. So if you say the older person is 7 years older than the younger person. The time that gets really confusing, I should have put this one on here. I should have put it on here, but not put it on your test. I guess maybe the next one's like this. Maybe I shouldn't say anything. If they ever say, I'm twice your age. If the older person is twice the age of the younger person, you have to really make sure you're looking at, and again, that's not this problem at all, but you have to really look at, is O equal to 2 times Y, or is 2 times Y equal to, let's wrote that the other way. Or is Y equal to 2 times O? So again, we'll talk about that some other time because that's not this equation, so I don't want to confuse you, but when they say twice as much or double, that does get a little confusing. So the good news is this one really, and you can solve it whichever way you want. If you want to use elimination, you can, but this one really lends itself to using substitution because that O is already by itself. So that's the way I'm going to do this one. So plug O is Y plus 7 into the first O, so we have Y plus 7 plus Y is equal to 99. So if you take out your parentheses, Y plus Y is 2Y plus 7 is equal to 99. And now we have a two-step equation. Subtract 7. 2Y is equal to 99 minus 7 is 92. Divide both sides by 2 is 46. So I got y was 46. Now plug that back in. You could plug it into either one of those equations. I personally think the second one's going to be the easiest. O is equal to y plus 7, so O is equal to 46 plus 7. So O is equal to 53. Then again, in a sentence, I would just say older friend, spelled wrong, but that's okay. Older fried is 53, and younger friend is 46. And again, I apologize, my handwriting's never been good, but definitely on this touch screen it makes it worse. Now, this is a good time that I'm going to tell you guys it's not a bad idea to go ahead and stop here and check your work. Because the problem is, a lot of people miss this. And when I say check your work, yes, you could plug things in and double check. But for me, if you just look, it's pretty obvious. Just make sure, well, those numbers added together should be 99. So 53 plus 46, again, I know that's actually subbing them in, but I have people that will miss that. And then the other bigger thing, one of the easiest things to check is, again, make sure your older person, that number should be bigger than the younger person. Again, you would not believe how many people miss this, and they just have them switched around, which isn't a huge deal, but since it's a story problem, the older person cannot be 46 and the younger person is 53. That doesn't make sense. The next one, go ahead and do the next one on your own. Just like the last one. And again, all you have to do is set it up. You do not have to solve this one. I also should have added, and I do this all the time. I don't know if any teachers count down for this. If they do, they're jerks. But one thing I should have mentioned, notice how this last one, it really just said how old was the older person. So really, we didn't have to say the younger person. You could have said the older friend is 53. That answers the question. You can do that. I just always forget, and for me, at a certain point, rather than worrying about it, it's more stress-free to just find everything like we always do. That's what I'd recommend, but obviously, if I'm asking that, totally your call. Same thing with this one. It says, how many miles did Brandon ride? Really, all you have to do is find Brandon. I'm going to find both of them just because, again, that for me is almost easier because you don't have to stress as much, or read as closely. Most of the times you have to find both of them anyways. Whoops. So again, that first equation, m plus b is 167. The second equation is the kicker. And this is the one that, again, you just have to be careful with because it confuses me. So I have to read it slowly. I have to make sure. Brandon complimented Miguel for outriding him by 17 miles. So again, one way to look at this is right away when we read that, who should have the bigger number? Miguel should. Brandon said Miguel outrode him by 17 miles. So Miguel is equal to Brandon plus 17. Now, you could have done that the opposite way. Honestly, some people look at it and they think it makes sense this way. Brandon is Miguel's minus 17. That's fine. Those are both the exact same. You can use either of them. If you were to solve this, I would use substitution. but we do not need to solve this. We just need to set it up. That's the big thing with today. Any questions with either of those? Hopefully not too bad. All right, moving on. This is another one that I like this one because it's always the same. The other ones we did, I could have made it a little bit differently where Brandon rode twice as much as Miguel, or even more confusing, the ones that I will not ever give you. Actually, would be a pretty good multiple choice or extra credit question. Some of them say Miguel rode 17 miles more than twice as much as Brandon. To make that an equation, again, it's just a little confusing. You guys could all do it, but I don't want to stress you guys out. Whereas this is nice because it's always the exact same way. So you're getting tickets to go in somewhere, to a circus, to Cedar Point, to the Elkhart County Fair, something like that. So a group of 15 people went to the circus. Now the big thing is that already is giving you an equation. They give you the total amount of people that went to wherever they went. Then it says there are 16 per adult and 9 per child. So they're saying there's two categories of people. They're either children or adults. And then the group spent $163 total to get in. How many adults, how many children were in the group? So A is number of adults. You guys all know this is the number sign, right? Okay. I've literally taught before where people are like, what's the hashtag in there? I say, I don't know, look it up on Twitter. Isn't that what it is? Just kidding. I say InstaChat a lot, and some kids genuinely think I'm old enough that I have no idea that that's Instagram and Snapchat. It really is amusing to me. Now again, this is an important one for me because if you just put A as adults and C as children, I should have put C, not Y. Sorry, I was thinking the last one of younger. Again, you can do whichever. You could have done Y. That would have been fine. A as adults, C as children. You could do that, but again, you have to be careful because a lot of people, when they're done, they say that so adults are $10. Well, no, they told you what adults were up here. So it's the number of adults to go and the number of children. And that's how all these ticket problems are going to be. So the biggest one that a lot of people miss, most people get the next equation, but the first equation that a lot of people miss is the fact that there's 15 people total. So that means if you take the number of children that went and the number of adults that went and add them, that's the total number of people. So A plus C is 15. For whatever reason, a lot of people miss that. And like I said, it's so far been in every, besides the first one, it was in the other one as well. M plus B is equal to 67. A plus C is equal to 15. Again, you're taking the two individuals and you're getting the total number of, in the first one, it was the second one's the number of miles, and this one, the number of human beings. So then the next equation. Now, in my opinion, the next equation's harder, but for whatever reason, people miss that one all the time. Tickets were priced 16 per adult, 9 per child. So how do you find your total amount? The total amount's 163. Well, the way you find your total amount is to realize if it's $16 per adult, you take 16 multiplied by however many adults went. That's how much money you're spending on the adults. For the children, it is $9 for a child ticket. So you multiply that by however many children went. Again, that's why this is A is the number of adults, C is the number of children. So those are your equations. Now we need to solve those. This one lends itself really nicely to substitution. You do get some pretty big numbers when you do it this way, but that's okay. I'm multiplying my first equation by -9. So that's going to give me -9a minus 9c is equal to -9 times 15. Whoops. It's -135. Now again, I know some of you guys will just go ahead and cancel these. That's totally fine. Honestly, that's what I would do if I were you. But I know some of you guys are a little bit sloppy, so I'm going to recommend. It helps a lot of people to go ahead and rewrite it. That way everything's nice and clean. Your 9c's cancel. That was the whole idea. -9 plus 16 is 7. -135 plus 163 is 28. Divide both by 7, you get A is equal to 4. Again, remember, that's not $4. A lot of people do that. That means there are 4 adults that went. So then to find number of children, again, plug it back in. Now that's where you're going to really appreciate the first equation, because if A plus C is 15, there's 15 people that went total, and I'm telling you 4 of them are adults. Most of you guys don't even have to plug it in. That means that the children are 11. If there's 15 people went total, 4 of them were adults, that means 11 of them have to be children. And again, I'm okay with that. You don't have to plug it back in. If you can figure that out, that's fine. Obviously, again, I guess I would recommend you show your work because I would like you to, but I can understand that. So then for my short description, I would just say there were 11 children and 4 adults and the group. And honestly, me putting in the group is a little extra. If you just said there were 11 children and 4 adults, I can live with that. Again, if you're ever wondering what do you write down for your sentence or description, look at what they ask you. How many adults, how many children were there? There were 11 adults, 4 children. You're just literally answering directly what they ask you. So go ahead and do 3B on your own. Again, you don't have to set that. You don't have to solve that one. Just set it up. One thing I will say: a lot of the reason people miss this first one is quite literally because they, for whatever reason, they trick you and they write the word 12 rather than putting the number 12. And so a lot of people, when they look at this story problem, they just go through it really quickly and they underline the things with numbers. This is a tricky one because first off, again, that says 12. You need to know that. So that's a number you need. But also they put the word 18 years or younger. You don't need that at all. You just need to know that youth is $19 per ticket, and we're finding how many youth. We don't care about their ages necessarily. So actually, it wouldn't be a bad idea if I were you. I'd maybe cross out that 18, just because you don't want to get confused by that. You don't want to use the 18 anywhere. All right, we're getting closer. We only have 2 more styles. And again, the second one I wouldn't really count too much. Salesforce coins. Now this one is a little bit different, and again, a lot of people get to this one, and this is where some people miss some little things. Caitlin was counting her spare change. She realized she only had nickels and dimes. So those are her 2 things, nickels and dimes. Caitlin must have spent all her quarters. We don't care. Good job, Caitlin. That's great. I guess we should highlight nickels and dimes. That's probably important. We don't care that she spent all her quarters. All we care about is nickels and dimes. She had a total of 51 coins. So we just talked about, just like the last ones, if it's a total, we're going to add those together to get 51. But she only had $3.50. How many dimes does Caitlin have? So first off, N is the number of nickels. D is the number of dimes. Now again, the thing that a lot of people miss is the first equation. There's 51 coins total, so if you take the number of nickels, capital, number of nickels plus the number of dimes is going to be 51. That's your first equation. Now your next equation is a little bit tricky. There's a couple different ways to do it, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'll tell you which way I recommend, but I go back and forth. The next one is, all it says is that those coins total $3.50. Well, how do you find out how much money it is when you have nickels and dimes? Well, whatever the number of nickels are, we multiply that by what a nickel is worth. Now, this is where you can either put the number, what the nickels are worth in cents. So nickels are worth, don't write this down, nickels are worth 5 cents, dimes are worth 10 cents. If you do it that way, that's fine, but you have to remember that $3.50 is 350 cents. Honestly, if you want to do it that way, that's what I would recommend. However, the problem is a lot of students forget that and they put 3.5. So the other way to do this is to look at it in dollars, just like the $3.50. So nickels are 0.05 cents. Don't put 0.5, that's 50 cents. 0.05. Or sorry, I should say $0.05 dollars. Dimes are 10 cents, so $0.10 dollars. And that has to add up to $3.50. Now again, personally, I would recommend doing it the other way. You just have to make sure you're aware that $3.50 is 350 cents. Now from here, there's 2 different ways to do this as well. You can use elimination. It wouldn't be that bad to get things to eliminate. If I want this n to cancel this n, I multiply the top one by negative 0.05. Now you guys all have calculators, so you can do it that way. The other way to do it is you can multiply the second equation just to get rid of your decimals. Multiply your second equation, all of it by 100, and that's going to move the decimal over twice. And so you're going to have that equation I had up there earlier. Move the decimal over twice on everything. You're going to have 5n, 10d, 350. Either one works. It all depends what you're going to do. Since I set it up this way in dollars, I'm going to go ahead and stick to this. Again, the reason this one's hard for people is a lot of people don't know, what do I multiply by n to get 0.05? Well, you multiply it by 0.05. So that's 0.05n, or sorry, negative 0.05n minus 0.05d is equal to 51 times 0.05. 51 times 0.05 is 2.55. Now again, to be a good role model, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite that other one. You don't have to. I wouldn't for this one, but do what you want. And I almost missed. That $2.55 is negative. Make that a little bit more clear. Negative $2.55. So those cancel. 0.10 minus point, or I should say, negative 0.05 plus 0.10 is 0.05. Negative 2.55 plus 3.50 is 0.95. Divide both of them by 0.05. Is 19, so D equals 19. Again, if you would have done it the other way from the very beginning, if you said 5 cents is a nickel, 10 cents is a dime is equal to 350 cents, that's totally fine. It might even make it easier. You wouldn't multiply by 0.05, you multiply by -5. So all these, you'd already have the decimal, and it'd still end up in the very end. You'd end up at the end, you'd end up with 5D is equal to 95. You divide both by 5 and still get 19. So either way works. Once you know for dimes you get 19, again you have 51 total. Well, if dimes are 19, then it's going to be N plus 19 is 51. If you subtract 19, $32 nickels. So she has, again, you could just say number of dimes. She has 19 dimes. We could have stopped there. Again, for me, it's almost easier to not worry about that. Solve both of them, and then you can see she has 19 dimes, 32 nickels. All right, go ahead, do 4B on your own. All right, again, you just have to set it up. I put mine up there. Again, I put it both ways. Especially if you're setting it up and not solving, you can do it this way. That's fine. Either way is good. The first way might not be bad. But I ultimately, if you can think about it, I like the second one. The hardest part about the second one is to realize that instead of 2, you have to put 200. But the other one, you have to, first off, deal with decimals, which is kind of a nightmare. But also, a lot of people don't put, again, for nickels, they don't put 0.05, they put 0.5. And that means it's 50 cents for a nickel. So, whichever way you're going to do it, if you're going to use decimals, that's fine. Just make sure it's 0.05 for nickels. And if you're going to use cents, make sure you put 200 is $2. 200 cents is $2. Any questions so far? On to the big one. Style number 5, 3x3. Here's the deal. You guys probably read this already or noticed this. I'm not going to make you solve these. Not on here, not on the practice, not on the test. Again, I want to make sure you know how to solve 3x3. I want to make sure you can set it up with a story problem. I do not, in my opinion, that means, okay, I know both. If you set up as a story problem and you can solve one, that means you could have done both at the same time. So I'm not going to worry about that. Now, the other thing is, as you can imagine, I put this as style 5 just to fit in with our notes. But with a 3x3, you can do any type of style with a 3x3. Any of those 4, you could do with 3 equations and 3 variables. There's probably even more options. However, this is probably what I'm going to do mostly with you guys, and I'll talk to you once I'm done. Frank's Local Diner, a number one comes with 2 burgers, a drink, and fries. And now, again, the number one part we don't care about. 2 burgers, a drink, and fries. That's 1 drink and 1 fry, $7.50. Number 2 has double fries, a burger, and a drink, costs $7. And number 3 is 2 burgers, 2 fries, 2 drinks, and it's $10.50. That's the day special, which I would probably get by myself. Set up the system that you could use to solve. So again, you're not solving it, you're setting it up. So what we're trying to find is to find what each item costs. So B is the cost of burger. D is the cost of drink. And F is the cost of fries. So the number one, 2 burgers, 1 drink, 1 fry. 2 burgers, 1 drink, 1 fry is $7.50. Now, obviously, you don't have to put the 1D and the 1F in there. I just do it because you do the same thing with all of them, so it's nice kind of to think of it that way. The number 2 comes double fries. Whoops, so double fries is over here. Yes. So I would put the decimal, and maybe that's a good point. Maybe you wouldn't use cents for this one because I would still use the, maybe you wouldn't use cents on the last one because you don't want to use it on this one. So if you move the decimal over, you're saying that 2 burgers plus 1 drink plus 1 fry is 750 cents, which you could do that. But then when you're done, you have to make sure that you're doing your burger in cents. So your burger is going to end up being like $500, or it's going to be 500. You have to remember that's 500 cents. So if you want to make this into cents, you can. For me personally, if it's not one of those coin problems, I leave it at 750 because it's not as bad. Good question, though. So 2 fries, double fries with 1 burger and 1 drink is $7. And the day special, 2 burgers, 2 drinks, 2 fries is equal to $10.50. That's it. Now, sometimes they throw an equation, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to do this on the test or quiz. The test is going to look like this. But sometimes they throw one in where the last one, they say burgers cost twice as much as fries. Or if you buy 1 fry and 1 drink, that costs the same amount as a burger. So sometimes they'll throw in one equation that's a little bit different than this norm. But I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to give you a heads up. I'm just going to do it that way. Basically, it's where you draw the line. It's how hard you're going to make it. I think 3x3 equations are pretty confusing. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with that easier stuff. So go ahead and do 5B on your own. Again, same thing. You are you're not solving this. You're just setting it up. I try to do, a lot of these are dealt with just like that last one where they talk about prices. You buy this much for this price, so how much is each price? So I went a little bit differently, so I tried to make it like that, so I apologize if this is difficult. But go ahead and do this one on your own, then I will put the answer. Then you can start your... One hint I would give you with this one, for large, I would use a capital L, because again, a lowercase l looks very, very similar to a 1. I've seen people miss that. Also, if you guys want to do this, you can. Instead of putting weight of for every single one, if you just want to do those quotations, that means you're doing the same thing to save some time. I can live with that. So that's the answer I had for this one. Now, again, a couple obvious things. You do not need them in that order. If you wanted to write each one, actually, you don't even have to write it each in the same order. You could have put this one as 3m plus 1s plus 2l. Since you're not solving it, it doesn't necessarily need to be nice and tidy like that. But I do think it helps you guys a little bit, so it's up to you. But again, as long as you have those equations, it doesn't actually matter what order they are in or what order your variables are in. Just be careful if you're going to stray away from doing it the same way every time.